Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Keagan here, and welcome back to another edition of Keagan's Movie Reviews. And today is going to be a double feature review this time. So the two movies I'm going to be talking about in today's episode is A Quiet Place and the sequel, which recently just came out, A Quiet Place Part 2. Now, before we get into today's review, I just want to let you guys know that A Quiet Place Part 2 is actually the first movie I saw in theaters for the first time in 8 months, since the theaters in Alberta recently just opened up again. And this is also going to be a spoiler-free review, so I'm going to try to avoid anything major when I'm reviewing both movies. So don't worry, this is going to be a spoiler-free review. So we're going to start with A Quiet Place first, and then we'll move on to A Quiet Place Part 2 later on. So without further ado, let's dive into today's review, shall we? So A Quiet Place is a sci-fi horror thriller drama written and directed by John Krasinski and was released on April 6, 2018. And I remember going to see this movie in theaters 2 weeks after it came out and was really blown away by it. I really enjoyed it, seeing it in the theater. It was one of the best movie theater going experiences I ever had, and I will never forget. It was creepy, it was atmospheric, it was thrilling, and I had a lot of fun time seeing it in the theater. And I actually recently just watched it last week on Thursday, the day before I went to go see A Quiet Place Part 2 in the theater. And I'm going to give you guys the storyline without spoiling it. This is going to be a spoiler-free review, like I said before. So the storyline for the movie is basically, it takes place in a post-apocalyptic world where there's aliens that take over a world. And the aliens cannot see, but they can hear. And if they hear something, they will attack anything that makes a sound, including a human. And you basically got a family that's struggling to survive in the apocalyptic world, where it seems that there's no hope that things will ever be the same again, and there's no sign of help. And then one night, the aliens start to attack the farmhouse where they live, and they're trying to fight off the aliens while trying to keeping it quiet, as that I would say. Try to keep it as quiet as possible. And that's pretty much the storyline of the movie. Now, when I remember seeing the trailer to it and hearing about the premise of the movie, I was like, oh boy, this should be interesting. Imagine that, like, living in a world where making one sound would get you killed and it could be risky. Just imagine that. I remember thinking, oh, this is going to be an interesting movie. And I was right. I was right. I really did enjoy this movie. I was not disappointed one bit when I saw it in the theater. And surprisingly, 95% of the movie has no talking. Like, the characters don't talk. They only do sign language to communicate. Only in certain parts they talk to each other. And there's like according to IMDb, there's only like 25 words used by the characters in the movie, other than just sign language, which is how they communicate. And that's actually pretty cool. And I had a blast seeing this movie in the theater. I really enjoyed it. The performances were really well done, especially by Emily Blunt and John Krasinski, who in real life, both Emily Blunt and John Krasinski are actually a married couple in real life. Not just in the movie, but in real life as well. And this movie, it was creepy, it was thrilling, and it has a lot of tension too, and it did a really good job, and I thought it was a really well done movie. Definitely one of the best, and I think this movie will probably go down as a classic movie from the 2010s. And man, I really, really enjoyed this movie. But if you haven't seen A Quiet Place, I would highly recommend checking it out. It's a really, really great movie. I really enjoyed it. And I think it still holds up today, even though the movie was only released 3 years ago. But if you haven't seen A Quiet Place, definitely check it out. I really, really enjoyed it. Well, I wouldn't really consider it a horror movie. I would consider it more of a thriller, but it does have its horror elements to it. But once again, if you haven't seen it, check it out. And I'm going to give A Quiet Place an 8 out of 10. And now we're going to move on to A Quiet Place Part 2. So, A Quiet Place Part 2 is a sci-fi horror thriller drama, again written and directed by John Krasinski, and was released on May 28th, 2021. So at the time when this video was recorded and uploaded to YouTube, this movie just came out 2 weeks ago. And I did go see it in the movie theaters on Friday last week. Now, this movie was actually supposed to come out in March last year, but unfortunately, due to COVID-19, the movie was pushed back to September, and then was pushed back to September of this year. But on the bright side, John Krasinski and the people of Paramount Pictures decided to push it back to May of this year. So the movie finally came out, and I finally saw it in the theater, and I thought it was pretty good. But not quite as good as the first one, but I still enjoyed it for what it is. But I haven't even talked about the story yet, but I'm going to talk about the story and then I'll give the rest of my thoughts on the movie. So A Quiet Place Part 2 picks up immediately right after when the first movie ended, where the surviving members of the family from the first movie abandoned the farm after the attack on the farm at the end of the first movie. And they're trying to seek somewhere else to live, and they find another place to live at a train station or a factory or something. I can't remember if it was like a factory or something. And it turns out there was a guy living there, played by Cillian Murphy, who you may know from the TV show Peaky Blinders. And I can't remember the name of the character Cillian Murphy played as, but yeah. So anyways, the daughter, the deaf daughter in the family, runs from the family to go try and look for a signal located somewhere a little bit far from the place where they're living at. And hopefully they'll be able to get help. And Cillian Murphy follows the deaf daughter, who I can't remember the character's name. But I know that the actress who played the daughter is actually deaf in real life. And the mother, played by Emily Blunt, and the son, who is crippled after stepping on a bear trap and breaking his ankle, are staying behind. And then they're trying to protect themselves. And that's pretty much the story of the movie. And the opening scene, like the first, maybe 7 minutes or something, first 10 minutes or so, shows the first day of when the aliens invaded Earth, which is pretty cool. Although the aliens don't have a name, if I remember correctly, but I'm sure when they make the next movie, they'll explain the aliens, like the names or something. And A Quiet Place Part 2, I enjoyed it. I thought it was a pretty good sequel. One of the better sequels that I've seen, I will say. Although it isn't quite as good as the first movie, but it isn't bad by any means. It just feels sort of a rehash of the first movie. But I still enjoyed it for what it is. There is a lot of talking in this one. There isn't really any sign language. Well, there is some sign language, but not as much sign language in the first movie. And it kind of doesn't help at the very end of the movie. It just ends all of a sudden. It was like, wait, what? I remember when seeing it in the theater, there was a guy sitting on the same row next to me saying like, hey, wait, what the F, man? What? Yeah, that was like the reaction of everybody when it just ended all of a sudden. I was like, wait, what the hell? You can't end it like right there. But yeah, something tells me there's definitely going to be a part 3. And apparently there's going to be a spin-off movie coming out after this one. But I think they should have just made part 3 and just end the series there and then make spin-off movies later on. But that's my opinion. But who knows? Maybe the next spin-off movie will be good or not. But we'll just have to wait and see. But A Quiet Place Part 2, not as good as the first one, but I still enjoyed it for what it is. I do like how it explains how the aliens got to Earth and took over everything. But I don't know. I don't think it's quite as good as the first one, but I still enjoyed it for what it is. But I don't really have too much else to say about this movie other than I enjoyed it for what it is. And I also want to say that it's also the first movie I saw in theaters in 8 months. The last movie I saw in theaters before I saw this one was Possessor. I haven't been able to go to the movies since then because all the movie theaters in Alberta were shut down because of COVID, but they just recently reopened again. And I was glad to see this one in theaters for the first time going to the movies in many months. So, yeah, that's all I really have to say. And I'm going to give A Quiet Place Part 2 a 7.5 out of 10. And, yeah, so that's going to be it for this review. So that's going to be it for today's video, you guys. Thank you guys for watching this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you guys enjoyed it, please leave a like, please leave a comment below, and subscribe for more videos like this. And feel free to follow me on my Instagram. My Instagram usernames are right there. And also feel free to follow me on my Letterboxd. My Letterboxd username is right there. The link to my Letterboxd is in the description down below. And if you'd like to check out my last review, which was on Sallow or the 120 Days of Sodom, the link to that will be in the description down below. And more movie reviews will be coming soon, so stay tuned for more reviews. So until next time, this is Keagan Shepherd signing off. Thanks again for watching. I hope you guys have a great day, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace out.